Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
Welcome back to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. I'm Art Devitalis.
And I'm Cynthia Davis. Now, for this week's news. This episode is brought to you by the very nice brewing company, Mountain Man Outdoor Store, Hardt's Backhoe, Brightwood Music, and of course, the Mountaineer newspaper.
Our intro music for the month of July is performed by local band New Family Dog. The new album is called Halo. It features John Black Dog Ridnell, Miles Ridnell, Sally Van Meter, and Michael Witten. Ridnell says the song was inspired by a woman. You can find more information about John Ridnell at www.johnridnell.com.
For our lead story this week, we'll talk to Grayson Capps.
The town of Nederland, Colorado has a pretty storied history when it comes to its music scene. In March 1972, James William Guercio, famed music producer, built a small recording studio called Caribou Ranch just outside of Nederland on the road leading into Caribou. Some of the well-known artists that have recorded there include, but are not limited to, Michael Jackson, Tom Petty, Phil Collins, the Beach Boys, Chicago, Earth, Wind and Fire, John Lennon, and Elton John. The studio was damaged in a fire in 1985, and it has not been used since then, but that doesn't make it any less exciting when another piece of storied music history comes to perform in the small town. When you've got a guy coming to perform here who already has 11 studio albums under his belt, is married to a Grammy Award-winning engineer and producer, and has a father who has written a novel that was adapted into a film starring Scarlett Johansson and John Travolta, there is plenty of reason to get excited about it. I am beyond ecstatic to introduce this week's guest on the Mountaineer Podcast, Grayson Capps.
My name is Grayson Capps, and I'm on the road right now, headed toward Colorado, Alabama.
All right. So you just told me before we started the call that you're driving through Jackson, Mississippi, because you are coming to Nederland on
That's
July
right.
10th.
About it. I've heard great things about that town. Very excited. It's a friend of mine from Gulf Shores, Alabama. I used to work at a place called the Flying Harpoon, Martina. I used to play at her place in Gulf Shores a long time ago. So Martina invited me to come play because she saw that I was going to be out there. And then after I said yes, then I started inquiring about what the hell is Nederland. Found out it's a pretty cool place, like a old prospector town. My wife likes rocks and gems and crystals, and I think we're going to tool around there. We're going to look for gold.
Not been lucky with that, unfortunately.
Have you tried?
I think I used to go to these summer camps in a local ecology center called Wild Bear. I've went there since I was a kid. And I think one of the activities that we do there every now and again was like panning for gold in the river. I can't remember anybody ever having any luck, unfortunately, finding anything in those rivers. But
I guess that's why the mines are all shut down.
We've also got a storied history in general of music in the area. There used to be a place called the Caribou Ranch where a bunch of big-time people came to record. We had Elton John record. We had Chicago's recorded there. Earth, Wind and Fire's recorded there. Built in 72, and it was unfortunately burnt in a fire in 85, and the studio hasn't been in use since then.
You know what Elton John songs were recorded there?
He recorded a couple of his albums, and he recorded, I believe, 3 of his albums in that studio. It's very surreal when you see a clip of him on the Jimmy Kimmel show, and he talks about how he was in Nederland and saw Stevie Wonder driving a snowmobile. I was excited for this interview, I think, because you've got some stories of your own that I I did a little background research before, and I was very intrigued about. I was excited about that.
All lies.
It's all lies. You've released a few studio albums over the years. 8 studio albums, I think, since 2005.
Yeah,
is that about
like
right?
That.
Yeah.
So,
How did you get into the music industry at first? Was that one of your bigger goals, or did it just was it just something that
I started doing the open mic night right out of I graduated Tulane University in New Orleans, and started a band called the House Levelers and with some fellow acting. We started hitting this open mic night at Carrollton Station in New Orleans, and became a hit. Every time we'd show up, people would get in the crowd would get bigger, and it would just be more about us on these open mic nights. Finally, we got signed to Tipitina's record label and hit the road, toured for about 3 years. This is when I was 21. So 21, 22, 23. And then, a lot of fast food and angst, too many couches and sandwiches and $50, we just broke apart, and I started a new band called Stave and Chain. And that band got picked up by a German label called Roof Records. And so we toured Europe with Stave and Chain, and it was going really well until there was a time that Polygram merged with Universal, and a lot of the smaller labels got dropped, and Roof was one of them at the time, although Roof is back in action. But our contract for 2 albums fell through, and all of our promotion, everything fell through. I ended up having a daughter with a young woman, and decided to focus more on that. Some kind of force came through to tie me to this woman named Shani Gable, who I shared a story that my father had written about this friend of our family's named Bobby Baum. And she fell in love with the hand-typed manuscript that I gave her of my father's unpublished novel, and turned it into a screenplay. And so around the time of the breakup with my daughter's mother, which was the darkest time of my life, I'm teaching John Travolta some songs I grew up with. And I'm in a movie with Scarlett Johansson and John Travolta doing the songs. So my short stint of landscaping led me right back into music, and then I started doing just stuff under my own name. That's when I released a lot of Grayson Capps records. But so I had the House Levelers, Stave and Chain, and now, after all the band drama, decided never to do that again. I'll take all the glory and all the blame and just call it my name.
You did contribute some songs to that film as well, didn't you?
Most of them, yeah. There's a Los Lobos song at the beginning, and most of the others are mine.
Gotcha. That is amazing.
And I'm in it too. If you, whenever you hear somebody playing in a bar, it's me.
Oh my, that's awesome. What stuck out to you about theater when you were growing up, and how do you think, if it did at all, it contributed to your interest in performing in live music?
It helped me a lot. I love theater, but a lot of my friends ended up doing commercials, doing soap operas, which the soap opera world was cool. I just didn't want to get into it. They made a lot of money. Mm-hmm. It was hard to do anything that tied into what my education was, which was pretty intense as far as discovering everybody has the ability to harness every archetype that ever existed throughout history for mankind, and to be able to acknowledge every archetypes within yourself and be able to deliver them.
You are married to Trina Shoemaker, who is a Grammy Award-winning engineer and producer.
Oh, yeah. I think you've got 4. I think you have 4 Grammys or 5? 4, yeah.
Dang. Yeah. I only found 3. She won twice for Sheryl Crow, one for...
6 nominations, too. So Sheryl Crow, there was Stephen Curtis Chapman, and Tanya Tucker, yeah. And that was just recently. That was right before the pandemic. We were out there at the Grammys.
How did she get involved in your own music production?
So I was playing at a place. I had a residency on Fridays at a place called El Matador on the corner of Decatur and Esplanade in New Orleans. I think she just got finished doing a record in Australia called with a band called Something for Kate. You know, we've been in the same town at the same time, but had never met. And I kind of was slightly aware of who she was through the Kingsway experience. But all I know is I finished playing the show, and this woman puts a note on the stage saying, "If you're single and live in Louisiana, give me a call sometime." And I didn't see her. I just saw her butt going out the door with a dog with a fluffy tail. And I was curious, so I called her, and then I met up with her at this bar called Mimi's. She's Trina, and then started going out. And then, you know, initially I think she was like, "You know, I'm not going to record you ever. You know, just want you to know that." And I was like, "That's fine. I like you. I like hanging out with you. And this is, you know, I don't care. I can record myself. I've done my own stuff anyway." And then, you know, all good. And then that movie starts to be made, Love Song for Bobby Long, and they need somebody to help with the sound. So one day I come up to her, I'm like, "Well, I know you don't want to record me, but would you record me playing guitar with John Travolta?" And she's like, "Oh, God, yes." I was like, "Asshole." What do you think? You know, so anyway, we went to the studio with me and John Travolta and her and did the songs that John sings in the movie. Then we decided to go in the same studio, and, you know, she heard some songs I'd done on my own, and we did my first record, and then we put it out, you know, on my own, and it got discovered by this label called Hyena, which is a bunch of people from Capitol Records who had started their own thing. It was Joel Dorn, Bill Dern, Henry Marks. They were all old Capitol people. Anyway, they had a good run, you know. They got me back on the road, did a lot of England, Holland, Germany, Belgium, France, Italy. I did a couple of records with them, and they, after Joel Dorn passed away, it started to fizzle out, and I felt like that, and I don't know, it didn't feel like there was enough money being put behind me to help me. Been lots of crazy ups and downs. I'm just starting to get back out playing. I spent a lot of time doing you know, like a lot of musicians doing the live streaming, and just starting to get back out. It's been really interesting. I just find it interesting. I just did a crawfish boil in Lafayette with some old swamp pop legends. Met a fella who's 67 years old who is on the cover of Spin magazine. We played all night, still writing, still working, still learning, and I feel like I'm performing better than ever right now. Well, Jamie, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is great.
Are you going to come out to the show?
I think I'm going to have to now.
Thanks, Jamie, for the update.
To the news, the Mountaineer has advertising packets that include print, social media, online, and podcast. Email mtnearadvertising@gmail.com for information on a marketing plan for all of your business needs.
Peak to Peak musicians and artists were looking for you. Would you like a featured story in the Mountaineer? We cover all news of the Peak to Peak, including business and artist profiles. We also offer features on our podcast, website, and social media. Right now, most of these are completed through email with our journalist, but when things open back up completely, it will be in person. We are your community newspaper. If interested, email publisher1977@gmail.com to get on the list for upcoming editions. The Levitt Street Market is open every Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Central City. This market has served vendors offering fresh produce, pottery, jams, and jellies, JKQ barbecue, and more. Stop by Central City to check it out.
For our next story, it's back to Jamie about a bonafide cattle drive that occurred recently. Take it away, Jamie.
It's always amazing to hear when a local community member gets to bring their dream to fruition, and it's even more amazing when they get to share that dream with the entire community. Here is Woody Woodward, owner of Magnolia Grass-Fed, talking about his first ever cattle drive, which he hosted on June 25th, 2021.
My name is Woody Woodward. I own and operate Magnolia Grass-Fed Beef. We have yaks and cows. Yaks are part of our meat program as well. So it's technically Magnolia Grass-Fed Meats, but we just go under Magnolia Grass-Fed because everything's raised here on Magnolia Road. I've been doing this for over 10 years on Magnolia Road. This is my 11th year, I believe. I learned originally from my mentor, Don Stilson, at the B-Bar-S Ranch on the corner of Twin Sisters in Magnolia. I started working just a couple hours a week and really enjoyed it. Started working a few days a week, and then I became the manager of that ranch. Then, in the process, decided formulating my own business within working for them and working for myself was a good idea. And with their great blessings, I did so. I opened my own business 6 years ago, and it's been going great. I started selling quarters, halves, and wholes to the neighbors and friends. We generally focus on working from here out. So when the demand became greater, people wanted to buy some beef, but they didn't want the whole quarter, half, or whole, which you do need an extra freezer for. We decided to start using USDA processors and packers, which allows me to then put it in places like restaurants and co-ops and farmers markets. And then that opens the door for people to buy smaller cuts, anything from a ground beef all the way up to $150 worth of different cuts, which we do on the website. On the website, we have box orders as well, 3 different entry levels, one being retail cuts through the farmers market or the co-op. The next would be box orders, which gets you a little discount on ordering about $150 worth of mixed cuts at a time. And we do free delivery to the Tri-County area, Boulder, Gilpin, and Jefferson. Next would be bulk orders, when you buy a quarter, half, or whole of a cow. To give you an idea, like a quarter would be a quarter of everything. So if you were to purchase a quarter of a cow, you get a quarter of everything from the liver to the tenderloin, all the cuts in between, and you get it processed the way you want. The butcher calls and says, how thick do you want your steaks, and how big do you want your roast, and how do you want it packaged, which customers really appreciate. Be the cheapest entry level of bulk, but you spend more, but you get a better price. And that usually lasts people a year to 2 years. They'll come back and re-up, and that's been the mainstay of our business. As of 2 years ago, started working with the restaurants and the co-op and the farmers market. The business is growing every year. There's more and more demand. Our herd is growing every year. I still manage the B-Bar-S's cattle in with my cattle. I now manage over 700 acres here on Magnolia Road. This year we're doing meat ducks and meat chickens. Yeah, a lot of people ask for eggs, but this project is particularly for meat ducks. Those are Peking or Peking, depending on who you ask, they say it different. The Peking ducks are always for meat usually, not necessarily great egg layers. And then our chickens are broiler chickens, which will grow fast and be ready to harvest in about a month.
So you guys just hosted a cattle drive a couple of days ago.
That's right.
Almost a week ago, actually, from when I'm recording this, July 1st. You had it last Friday?
Friday, yeah.
Okay.
Not sure the date Friday was, maybe 28th or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
27th maybe.
Yeah, but how did that go?
It went well. It was my first attempt at driving cattle a long distance on the road. We cross the roads often to go from pasture to pasture, but this was an experience I wanted to at least do once in my life. We went 4 miles from the B-Bar-S Ranch on the corner of Twin Sisters in Magnolia to the Reynolds Ranch, which is 4 miles towards Ned, to the property here where we're at that I rent from Boulder County Open Space. And there's a bunch of pastures in between that we're going to graze on the way back. We hope to do this again in a month and a half, approximately 40 days or so. With as good as everything went, we're thinking this is something we hope to make a tradition out of. Traditionally, people would use horses. We do everything on foot here, no ATVs, no horses. If somebody did have a cattle horse, I would more than welcome them to come participate, but it takes a special kind of horse and a special kind of rider. Otherwise, the horses would scare the cattle, and vice versa, the cattle may scare the horses. Yes, it does feel pretty great to participate in something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. Again, hope to make a tradition of. It is written into Colorado law that cattle drives are legal on public roads. We did have a little assistance from Boulder County behind us with some flashing lights, and we also had some pace cars on each end with signs, and we posted the road in the morning to let everybody know. There'd be cattle on the road from 11 to 4, and please drive slow, and everyone was wonderful in their cooperation. Most people were enthused and taking pictures. Even if they weren't, we tried to speak with everyone who stopped and allowed us passage. We didn't refuse passage to anyone. If you needed to get through, we would just try to keep you to one side and get you through. But everyone was pretty psyched about it. We got a lot of positive feedback. We hope to do this again. Everyone's feeling pretty good about it. We did have 13 people on the ground and about another 6 people in vehicles, controlling traffic and presenting signs and jumping ahead to make sure, if the cows ran ahead of us, we could tell them to block the road off or something like that. We hope that we can get more community participation next time.
What's been your motivation to do all this stuff?
Working with the land, something that makes me, rejoice inside. To be able to manage other people's lands in itself makes it feel like the privilege of someone saying, manage the land as you see appropriate, whether it be with cattle or yaks, which under intensive management can improve your land. Of course, if left up to their own devices, they'll get in the muck holes and they'll break the fences down. With proper management, we are really focused on carbon sequestering. So the land comes first. I don't know if there's a real particular order, but the land means a lot to me, and the cows are a mechanism to make the land better. Herd management and carbon sequestering helps me use it. It's like in my toolbox, like the cow's hooves and the manure that they deposit are all tools for me to make the land better, enrich the land, make sure it's holding water and not running off, not eroding, not full of weeds, but more desirable forage. And a mix of, I'm not trying to get rid of any plant, not any one plant at all. Even though there are some noxious plants you want to keep an eye on, the cows that will do that for you also, if properly managed. Next would be my community. I wouldn't say, again, there's no particular order, they're all very intertwined, but working closely with my community and the land that they've allowed me to be on, and providing food for the people who maybe would like to have cows or would like to see me over there, but don't necessarily have the proper setup for a herd to come through, can participate in knowing where their food comes from and supporting us in what we do by telling their neighbors, even if they don't eat beef. We still have a lot of people who support us in our methods of raising cattle because they can see how closely we work with the cows and the yaks. Most importantly, the land, the people, healthy food. I couldn't think of doing anything else. Couldn't think of anything better. Did start by myself as far as creating my own business within helping them manage theirs. And now I am up to 3 employees who come 1 day a week each, and I couldn't do it without them. They're incredible people, and one's been here 3 years, one who's been here 2 years, and one started this year. So it's kind of neat to have the different levels of learning and sharing amongst the people who are very interested in what we do. My girlfriend aside, no direct family, but she would definitely have a big part in this, and again, could not do it without her. She keeps me focused. I'd rather be on the land every minute, but of course there's things you have to manage, like emails and texts and, market setup and things that she definitely keeps me on point with, amongst many, many other things, because sometimes I'll just walk around till 10 o'clock at night until I fall over and want to go to bed, just because there's always something to do on the land, and it's super enjoyable and rewarding for me. One thing I didn't necessarily mention is the way we approach cattle management. There's a lot of phrases out there these days, of course, regenerative farming being a big one, but more directly related would be holistic land management, holistic resource management, and that means taking everything in as a whole, the holistic part of that phrase. We don't just look at the cows and make sure they're healthy and look at the grass and see if there's any left. We look at the wildlife, the predators, the trees, the weeds, the water, the wind. These are all a holistic part of what's happening here, and many of those things are resources, and it's up to me to manage them appropriately. And one, like for instance, a common saying amongst regenerative farmers is it's not the water you get, it's the water you keep. So I am often focused on trying to keep water here on the land by creating a healthy soil that will absorb it instead of run off. In those practices of holistic land management, this year we're moving the cattle every day. Prior to this year, we were doing every 3 days to 5 days, depending on the size of the paddock we give them. A paddock is a division of a pasture. Pasture being the large space, and a paddock means I'll take electric wire that I've trained the fence to, just one white string, and create smaller paddocks that they can move within for 24 hours, make the best of the forage they have, and then kick them onto the next one, or lead them to the next one is more appropriate, and then fence off the one that they were on so they don't go back and re-nip the plant, re-bite the plant. Once you start to re-nip a plant, it definitely takes the energy reserves from its root system. And another way to look at it is we're growing soil, not just grass. We're growing roots main energy reserves of the grass that we want to see come back every year. So we're trying to keep the integrity of the grass and improve it every year so that it wants to have a healthy root bed through the summer while it's dormant, and comes back even more vigorous than it did the year before. And moving every day this year has shown me a lot. I wasn't sure if we were going to get rain there. For the first 20 days of June were bone dry, and I was a little nervous. With the practices that we've taken on this year of moving every day, trying to take only 50% of the available forage and then move them before they take more than that. So it's not always 24 hours exactly. We'll monitor the forage and make sure that they're not taking more than 50% before we move them to the next area. And that's just part of the intricate workings of holistic land management, but it's a big part of it. It's what I do every day. Build fence, take down fence, move cows, move water tanks. And again, these are all tools. So I can move the water tanks to areas I think need more impact or can handle more impact, or it allows me not to have the water source in the same spot every year. I'll gravity feed from the springs or from the ponds that we have, so that the cattle never access riparian areas, which are very gentle often, and they can break through the sod and be a detriment to marshy areas sometimes. It's also bad for their health. So we were very, very on top of keeping the cows, out of sensitive areas.
How do you deal with the animals in the land? Are there times where you've had to deal with animals that could potentially get in and harm the cattle or the ducks or any of the other things? Have you had to manage anything along those lines, or are there issues with other wildlife that have cropped up since the management of this land?
Absolutely. We are part of a very large elk migration corridor. There's one on each side of the canyon, and there's up to 200, usually around 160, but I've seen it upwards of 200, 210 come through this area in their migratory patterns. And of course that can be challenging to keep fences up. So a lot of our areas that we've identified as major corridors, we do something called drop fencing, which means we take the barbed wire off of each post and lay it on the ground. There's a special insulator there that we can just pop it out of and then put it back in. So they're not wired to each post, but they are hooked to each post. And in those areas, once the cows are gone, we will drop the fence to the ground and allow passage, because it's easier to put a fence back up in the spring than it is to repair a giant wire mess that the elk have drug through the woods. And it's not just the elk, they're the elk and the deer. And they're here in the summers too, so I have to keep an eye out if I see or hear of moose or elk or deer in the area, that I'm really on top of checking my electric fences. And when they are in the area while the cows and yaks are here, they could always knock one down, allowing the cows to go into an area that I didn't want them to. And that's part of the daily management, is check the fence every day. Part of our routine is check and not necessarily in this order, but check the cows, the grass, the water, the fence. No matter what, those things have to be approached every day by each employee and monitored. And that's how we know how to make sure we're doing the right thing, monitor what we've done, and monitor where we're going to go. Part of the practices of holistic land management, and we'll use this term often, is called a predator-prey relationship. Now, back in the day before lots of us were here, there was much, much larger herds. And for instance, we could use the buffalo as an example. Of course, we've all heard about how there was millions of them. And when they'd come through, it'd just be, for miles and miles. Point being is, back in the day, you have an animal, like a herd animal, like elk or bison or anything like that, who really enjoy eating a certain grass. And they're like, oh, this grass is great, we love it here. This is like their favorite spot. A predator comes in, we'll say a mountain lion, and says, oh, those bison are always hanging out in that spot. Looks like dinner. And then they go over there and they scatter them, and the bison are forced to go look for another new spot. And that's normal, and that's nature, and that's what we understand to be part of what would happen if we weren't here. So in a way, what we focus on is biomimicry. And we're always trying, it's a hard thing to do, because we as humans are putting our hand into a natural process. But what we view here in the farm is a lot of those natural processes have been diluted through property management, fences, more people, more roads, which is all going to happen anyway. But we're doing our best to preserve a natural rhythm of animal movement. So when I do see coyotes, and I have seen a few mountain lions, not many, but they're here. Like everyone knows, sometimes you go 20 years without seeing one. They're not necessarily a bad thing. Diversity is one of our main goals here. Diversity is crucial. Plant species, animal species, livestock even. That's why one of the reasons we had ducks and chickens this year was just to expand on the kinds of animals that we're managing just to see how they can work into the program. MagnoliaGrassFed.com would get you to our website and provide any more information if anyone had any questions. And I would like to mention this year we're starting to do farm dinners here at the Reynolds Ranch on Magnolia Road in this space that we're in right now. We've been renovating it over the past month to bring it up to a level where we can have groups of people come and enjoy what we have here. We're really interested in sharing what we have. That's very important. It's not just me and my helpers, it's showing the community what's going on, part of that preserving an agricultural history. And farming's not for everybody, but people really appreciate, what we're doing when they see the inner workings, and everybody might like a different part of it. Some people just like coming and being on the farm for a few hours, and we have an open door, policy for visitors at any time. Just give a shout and we'll accommodate, because again, sharing what we have, which is a beautiful thing for us here on this land, is a major part of it. Starting next month in August, we'll have our first farm dinner. There will be a limited amount of seats and tickets sold, but there'll be music, and some of our yaks give carriage rides, so we'll have a carriage ride. A few other fun farm things to do while you're here, at least to walk through, participate, and observe. And then a wonderful dinner where we'll showcase beef and yak mostly, as well as other local produce from any of our friends who farm in the area. We work from here out. So let's just say you made chocolate or honey or something like that. We would come to you to seek out those things that we don't have here in a local fashion, where I might end up in Boulder if I can't find, say, fresh greens. It's a hard one to get up here. Mm-hmm. But I have some farmer friends in Boulder who are more than happy to help participate in that way. So we'll showcase their farms at the same time if they are participating in any of the elements of that dinner that night. We're pretty excited about it. It's a way for us to open the door and share what we're doing.
Well, thank you so much for having me interview you. This was really awesome. It's really cool hearing about them at the cattle drive and seeing how this business runs and seeing how important it is to really keep the cattle homegrown.
I appreciate you coming by.
For sure.
For more information about Woody's business, check out magnoliagrassfed.com or go to their Facebook page at www.facebook.com/magnoliagrassfed. They're located at 10165 Magnolia Drive, Nederland, and can be reached at 720-628-1286.
Thanks, you two, for the tale of the first drive that Colorado has seen in recent years. Watch for an interview to come soon from our music correspondent, Dango Rose.
Brightwood Music in Nederland will restring and repair your favorite stringed instrument. Brightwood Music also carries many lines of all your favorite mandolins, violins, guitars, cellos, mountain dulcimers, basses, and bouzouki. Brightwood Music is family-owned and operated. It's been a Netherlands staple for more than a decade, and you can find them at 20 East Lakeview Drive, Unit 109 in Ned. Give them a call at 303-258-8863, or you can find them on Facebook at Brightwood Music. The Nederland Mining Museum is now open. The Nederland Mining Museum offers a glimpse into the world of hard rock mining days in Boulder County. Indoor and outdoor displays of trams, ore carts, engines, historic photographs, and rare mining claim maps show how miners lived and how hard rock mining played a part in Colorado's history. Hours are Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at 200 North Bridge Street in Ned. Call 303-258-7332 during museum hours, or contact Cheryl Kippen at 303-778-8848. Learn about all the museums of Boulder County parks and open space at bouldercountyopenSpace.org/museums.
I'm Zach DeLashmet, one of two co-owners of Howlin Brewing and Blending.
Yeah, I'm Melissa Nicholson, the other part owner of Howlin Blending.
Sweet. So you guys just had your opening ceremony. I'm recording this the 28th. You guys just had your 2 days ago? Is that right? How was that?
Yeah, it was a really good turnout. A lot of the community came out to support us, and yeah, a lot of great friends, and we were busy all day.
How did the ceremony celebrate the opening?
Lots of beer.
That's fair.
Otherwise, yeah, it was just kind of a big gathering of a lot of friendly faces that we haven't seen for a while. Support was pretty thick, so that was good.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So what brought you guys here to the opening? What inspired you to open this place? What inspired you to open it here? What brought this place about?
We've been brewing for a long time. We were commuting an hour to work at a different brewery in Boulder. And so we felt like being able to walk to work would be a nice perk. Rollinsville kind of needs something, so it sort of has been, I think, a long time coming with as far as like having something to do for the people here, working, going from other brewery work to deciding to open our own place.
Yeah, and basically, the opportunity came about for this location, the Tesco building, and we jumped on it. It was kind of a hard offer to turn down, so we decided to just create a community space for Rollinsville.
Sweet.
Right now, we just have a lot of our favorite beers on tap, which is like a Kolsch, sour. We gotta have an IPA for all those hop fans. We'll always be like changing things up. We don't really have flagship style beers. We have a pretty small system, so we're pretty lucky where we can be really creative in what we do, which we're really excited about. So we'll have a lot of more funky things coming out in the near future. And then as far as music and events go, definitely will have that. Just takes a little while to
For sure.
Get the space dialed in and sound and all that fun stuff. But definitely in the future would love like some local folks to pick, probably bluegrass because that's our favorite. So
Gotcha. And are there any particular beverages here that if people come here you would recommend?
honestly, right now it's like summertime. I know it's been a little bit cold and rainy, but a Kolsch I would say is one of our favorite beers. Just super light, really easy to drink. And then, for the sour fans, the apricot sour. Also a great fun beer.
Gotcha. And you guys also serve non-alcoholic stuff here as well, right?
We do, yeah. Well, so our kombucha is slightly alcoholic. The blackberry sage kombucha, which we'll keep like a rotating flavor on all the time. Just for something different. I know some people have like gluten intolerance and different things like that. So it's nice to have just something different, or if somebody doesn't want like a 5 or 7% beer, it's like 1 or 2%, just a little bit light, still bubbly and fun. We're super fans of like bubble water, so we figured might as well have some freshly fruited bubble water.
Gotcha.
On top.
Sweet. And now that the place is up and running, what are you most excited to see come about from its opening?
I would say our top thing and what we're most excited about is like bringing the community together. And like, I feel like there are so many amazing people in this Rollinsville, Gilpin County area. And like Zach was saying, we don't really have a place to commune. And so I feel like this is going to be the gathering space for our community. And we're really excited about all the people that we're going to meet and neighbors meeting neighbors. And just building a community out here.
Sharing our passion for beers that maybe aren't so readily available at other breweries. People will want to drink a number of different styles, and we're just into the whole creative side of things, and it's a good creative outlet for us, and hopefully opening people's minds to just styles of beer they never had before.
You mentioned the interest in beers that not a lot of people have readily available. Has an interest in beer gone back a ways for you guys?
As long as you can legally drink, I suppose. I never really cared much for like the huge factory type breweries. It was always more of the microbrews and nano breweries now. And traveled to Belgium to go to a bunch of places, and that was a huge inspiration for us. And it's kind of consumed us a bit, but I don't know. It's definitely been a long time coming.
Gotcha. But it's definitely more of a personal interest in regards to being able to give people stuff that isn't made by factories. It's just homemade.
Correct.
As well.
Yeah, very small batch.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
So far, so good. Like I said, we've gotten so much support from the community, and really that's like our main goal. Just, providing good beers to all the people around us. And so far, so good.
Sweet. Thank you so much for allowing me to stop by and interview you guys. This is great.
Thanks for stopping in.
You can visit Howlin in Brewing and Blending today on the corner of Highway 119 and Main Street in Rollinsville. Their opening hours are Thursday through Monday, 1 to 10 p.m.
And that's all all for this week's episode of the Mountaineer Podcast. All editions of the Mountaineer Podcast are available on our website at www.themountaineer.com.
Pick up this week's edition of the Mountaineer in print.
And you can go online to themountaineer.com to catch up on more local news. I'm Cynthia Davis.
I'm Art Devitalis. Until next time, thank you for listening.
Every day, torture the rest of soul.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.